There.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Thank you. How are you all doing? Staying healthy, I hope. Whenever I think about the awesome weather yesterday, I actually rolled down my car windows. It was so amazing. Right now, I don't even know what the weather's like. I haven't been outside, but the sun helps. But is it as nice as it was yesterday? I haven't been outside since the morning. Is it, Gwen? Okay, I'm gonna have to ride around with my car windows down again.
Yeah, I just got back from the farm, so it's really nice.
Perfect.
Gotta
Feels
go
good. It was crazy yesterday when the spring was here. When it came, it sure helps the mood. That's for sure. So last night I didn't get to watch again, but this one is always a toughie, in my opinion. So, did anyone miss last night? It was about plant diseases and diagnosis. Jessica, I love your bunny ears. You're trying to be cute like your bunny, but it almost looks like it could be a filter, but I know it's real, right? Is it real? It's cute.
They're real.
They're cute. Oh, they're like cool headphones. That's cool. That's cute. So what do you guys think about the plant diseases and diagnosis stuff? It looked like Casey's dog was learning a lot in the Facebook.
So last night when I listened to it, I feel like there were like 4 big chapters, a lot of background reading and a lot with it. And the guy who spoke had a bachelor's, master, and a doctorate somewhere too. And it almost felt like he was basically giving us a 20,000 foot view of something and said, just kind of look at it, ask a whole bunch of questions, and then ask other people for help because there's too much. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's how I felt.
Yeah, yeah. Did he tell you? I'm sure he told you about his diagnostic lab we can send things to also, so that helps. Yeah. So yes, I mean, there's specialists up there that sometimes don't even know what they're looking at. So yeah, don't feel bad if you don't know it right off the top of your head. That's for sure. I bet you deal with a lot of stuff though, Corey, with your pumpkins. Like, do you deal with powdery mildew and stuff like that?
Well, I was gonna say the number one thing is powdery mildew. That kills them all there at the end. You just try to survive as long as you can, and other things like that. And I know what to use on some of those, but I'm just thinking like even my other profession as a pharmacist, like there's so many drugs out there, and they don't train us to know every single drug, and we don't know every single drug, but they teach us how to look at drugs, and when they ask certain questions about the drugs, to look it up and look up mechanism of action, how it interact, how it interacts with different pathophysiology of your body and things like that. But they don't actually expect us to know every single drug and all side effects and everything. They teach you how to navigate that, and that's kind of what he was doing. Is you have all these things. Let's start at the beginning and do this process. So I thought that was very helpful, the step by step. But I don't think he expects us as just volunteer master gardeners to be pros like him, obviously.
That's right. Okay, that's good. Good. I'm glad he was clear about that. That's awesome. Anybody else have thoughts about last night? Katie's joining us. All right, you guys want to just look at the quiz, work on it together? All right, let me share my screen here. All right, can you guys see it okay? I'll make it a little bit bigger. So you can see my screen, is that right? I didn't see you guys nodding. Okay, sorry, can't see two places at the same time. All right, so we're going to talk about the four major categories causal agents of plant disease and label as biotic or abiotic. So first of all, let's talk about what is a causal agent of a plant disease. What does that mean? Just so we're on the same page. Maybe someone already knows it, but let me know.
I'm assuming you mean causal agent, like what is the actual cause of the disease, or what's the reasoning behind it not growing healthy, normal?
Yes, exactly. That's right. So causal is basically just cause, right? It's just a fancy way of saying cause. Yes. And so then let's talk about labeling it as biotic or abiotic. So what does bio mean? That prefix, first of all, bio.
Life.
Yep, life. So what do you think biotic would mean?
Living, something alive, or something pretending to be alive.
Exactly. So then the opposite is abiotic, which is basically something's causing something that is not from a live thing. So what would an abiotic cause be, maybe?
Like environmental damage, such as like getting blasted by the sun, or maybe you hit it with a lawnmower.
Exactly. That's right. All right. So now we kind of know what we're talking about. So let's talk about those four major categories of this disease. Hold on just a second. Oh, well, it won't. It'll just be long. So we'll just make a list. All right. So let me do this real quick. What would you say which one would you put? What would you say first? Just say it out loud. I like Jessica's. Go ahead, Jessica.
Would it be fungi?
That's a good one. Yeah. And so would fungi be biotic or abiotic?
Biotic.
Yeah. I don't know why it's making it light, so we'll see about that. Who knows? Can you see it good enough? Okay, so that would be biotic. So they're also saying any other kind of plant pathogens. That's what they're putting it all together. With all in one, fungi and other plant pathogens. And that is biotic because they're alive. Yes. All right, let's do another one. I'll give I liked Jessica's abiotic, so let's do an abiotic one. Anyone can think of an abiotic reason?
Hers was mechanical injury, like mowing or cutting or destroying.
Yes. Why PDF? Okay, whatever. All right, good one. Abiotic. Now, I don't know why my PDF decided to take a left turn at Albuquerque, but whatever. All right, C. Let's see. Let's give me another one. What's another reason for disease?
Would insects and various pests be one?
I think they're calling that like a pathogen of the plant, but that would, yeah.
Chemicals.
Yes, chemicals. Which could be either fertilizers, or pesticides.
Also,
You probably go ahead.
I was just saying it's also biotic. Or I'm sorry, abiotic, sorry.
Abiotic. Yeah,
Alive.
good job. I wanted to let you guys know that if you have beehives, you can sign up for something called Bee Watch, which actually is a free service that farmers or other producers could look at before they go and spray. You can have as many beehives as you want. You could be a hobbyist or a commercial beekeeper. So let me show you what the website is called. But when you are a gardener, you can only put your information in if you have more than a half acre that you're growing. So I'm going to show you this. This was actually started up at Purdue, and now it's gone to many other states. So Field Watch is the generic overarching company term, basically. And a lot of sponsors like chemical companies, pesticide companies, they sponsor this just to, be marketing and also to show that they care about the environment. So Field Watch is the overarching one. Drift Watch is for specialty producers. For instance, pumpkins would be one of them. Bee Check is for obviously the beekeepers. Crop Check is for row crop producers. Lots of times soybeans are specifically sensitive to dicamba, and so they will, if they're growing things like seed soybeans, and it's for that reason they basically put themselves on there, and that's why they don't want dicamba to be sprayed around. And this Field Check for applicators, people can sign up and put their area of where they may be spraying or working in the fields. And they can click something to be emailed if like a new producer puts their information in. And so the point of all this is to be a good neighbor and to just basically have good communication and help each other. This is not going to be held against you either way in court, but it's more just to help with neighborly relations. So for instance, if you were looking for people, if you're going to go spray, you might want to look at the map. And so we're going to look at Indiana. Now, if you're a beekeeper and you don't want everyone knowing that you're a beekeeper, you could actually hide this. And so if a field producer would have to have an account, it's free, but you have to sign in order to see your beehives. So you don't have to have a public thing. For a while, mine was private. Mine still might be private because I don't necessarily want everyone to know I have bees. So it's whatever you want to do. But as you can see, the little beehive that looks like a beehive and the little bee, that's bees. But you can also filter. You can see if there's any commercial Christmas tree places. Yep, there's one right there here in Hancock County. And so you can just kind of look around. And so this is, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but this is helpful if you have an acre garden or more, or any amount of beehives. So I just want to share that with you, because just like Corey said, that whole idea of chemicals can sometimes cause problems, you know, and if you ever deal with that, you can call your educator, but we always want to encourage neighborly relations because you want to be happy being next to each other. So if you're going to spray something, it's always good to, well, of course, follow the label, but talk to your neighbor if they have beehives and just say, hey, you know, I'm going to do this after your bees are in bed at night, or, you know, right when they're dark, you know, dusk. So just communication really goes a long way. So
How much accountability is there with something like that? And I only ask because I know of two instances. One was a professional pumpkin grower, and it was dicamba, and it was on drift watch, and they did it when it was too humid or something, and it drifted over, and their prize pumpkins, which are still there, it's a hobby, whatever, was wiped out. But then even my father, he was a huge gardener, and there have been years where they live right up next to a field. There's about 10, 15 feet from there. And he's warned the farmer, because it's a small farming community, like, hey, please don't spray right up next to our home, because they wiped out, like, I don't know, 15 or 20 like evergreen trees, and then half his garden half the time. And he warned them. And he said he went to him and asked him, and they basically apologized, and they came out and they gave him a gift card to like a greenhouse or something to go buy some stuff. But like, is there any actual accountability for farmers, like spraying and killing off a whole bunch of stuff? Because like, obviously he's like, I'm more worried about our health too. I'm breathing in this stuff that is killing all our plants. It can be good.
yes, it's actually the Office of the Indiana State Chemist. It is a regulatory agency. And so, so basically when people call the Ag and Natural Resources person, we're going to say, okay, you know, if you have a drift complaint, it's the Office of the Indiana State Chemist that actually deals with those. And we have a really great publication. I think it's 111. Yes. Basically, it tells how to handle drifts. Let me find it. And what to do, like take pictures, basically to protect yourself, and look for, you know, call, like I said, first try to, like your father said, try to call your neighbor. No, I can't even find it. And then last resort is going to be calling the Office of the State Chemist, because they are a regulatory agency and they're very serious. There was a man there that I met at one conference. He used to be a police officer, and he just follows the law. And so he will come out or he'll have someone come out and basically check the complaint, and it will become a regulatory issue that eventually there's fines. It does sound like Canva fines are going to be a little bit raised. It's in the legislation right now, I guess, working on that, because for a while, I think when a farmer would have to follow a fine, it wasn't hurting them too much, to be honest. So they're making it a little bit more painful. And so, yes, it's a regulatory thing. But if you've ever been through regulatory stuff, you know how it takes forever. So hopefully the farmer will want to make it right. And sometimes the person has to basically say the injury to the farmer in order to be settled correctly, if they're trying to reconcile. So you kind of have to be honest, like, this is how much it's going to cost to make me well again. So, anyways, but these are some good resources, and I hope that doesn't continue to happen to your dad. That's really hard Drifts are probably the hardest thing, I think, in relationships with neighbors, with farming and bees and all those things. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I just imagine like bees aren't cheap either, and then all the hard work you put into gardening and things like that. If you had an actual produce farm or something, I would just be, I mean, it would be upsetting, and the time and everything. So, I mean, that's why they set up those boundaries. And I've seen those little signs, like drift watch signs, and you can see them when they have like, they're just out in the country and random people that are growing stuff. And they have bees and they have other things like that. And you see all those videos out there of people just, their bees are dead all over the parking lots and things like that. It's just sad. But I didn't know if there's actually any real, I mean, if you're making several $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 on a field, what's $1,000 fine? Who cares? But I don't know if it actually is harmful to them or their business. So I don't know. I just thought I'd ask. Sorry.
Yeah, so the regulatory agency will basically find them, but I think you as a person, just like I don't think we're taught this very much. I mean, personally, I wasn't taught this very much, but I got sued one time, but it was because people can sue you. It just happens, you know what I mean? And it ended up, we weren't in trouble, but thankfully we had house insurance that covered our lawyer because they were suing us for injuries that happened out on the road in front of our house. And, but the point is, when you as a person are injured or something, you're kind of the one that has to go forward, like with a civil suit, usually to really probably get restitution to cover all your bees, which is civil suits. You know, in our Constitution, we're afforded like a quick lawsuit. Well, that's for criminal reasons. Civil suits can take forever, like 3 years or something. It's just a big pain, but it's worth it to get reimbursed back. But it's on the person who's been hurt to file that. So that is hard. And the regulatory agency won't do all that work for you, which is, you know, sorry to be a bummer, but those are not really fun to go through. Okay, so let me see. Chemicals. So we talked a little about drift and drift watch. And just like Corey said, you can order those signs for free. So I mean, not for free. I think it does cost a little bit, but those are nice signs to have for when you're growing things that are important to remind people to be careful. All right, what's that fourth one? There's one more, and I remember, I think Jessica actually said it. Yes, it was. I think it was, you said it also with your abiotic one. Remember what it was, Jessica?
The sun damage.
Yes, environmental. Yep. All right. Does all that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? All right, let's label the disease triangle and list an appropriate management practice next to each label. So basically they're looking for a cultural management practice that we can do to manage these issues. So let's start with the first one. What do you think it'd be?
Virulent pathogen.
Okay. Okay, or active pathogen. Okay. And what would you do to try to mitigate that risk? Where do those kind of pathogens come from?
I
Go ahead,
got
Dan.
exclusion to quarantine, eradicate elements of vectors. You can also suppress soil chemicals.
Okay. Awesome. You could also use like protective, let me see, protective fungicide. Do you ever do that with your powdery mildew, Corey? Okay. Let's see if I can. No,
I tried to.
I understand. I can't imagine.
And he hit it yesterday too. Powdery mildew affects, we do tons of zinnias and flowers, and those things get it too. So I don't know if my pumpkins are spreading it to those or they're spreading it to my pumpkins, things like that. But it's just, those just turn white. The leaves do at the end of the year.
Do they really? Do you practice sanitation?
We try. I mean,
Yeah.
I do the best I can, but I mean, he gave some good advice last night with it too. But
good.
we like growing a lot of flowers in our garden as well, just to pick all the time. But we do as what we can.
That's awesome. I wonder if there's less. So here's one. What planting a less resistant host. So I wonder if there's less.
We talked about that. Yeah,
I wonder if there's less susceptible flowers.
there are. They even mentioned that last night. He said there are cultivars of different zinnias that are the newer kinds that are much more resistant to it. So.
Oh, good. So plant a resistant variety if you can. Okay. What about this third one?
Is it a favorable environment?
Sure is. Okay. And what can we do to improve the environment?
Site selection.
Yep. Maybe pruning to encourage air. Because I know roses don't like to be too bushy because they get mildewy when they're that way. Pruning to have air circulation. Okay. Anybody have any questions or that? All right. Name 4 ways that pathogens are spread.
Wind,
Yeah, wind.
insects,
Oh yeah, insects. Yep. Let's see. There's also like wind isn't the same thing, but like man-made tools. We can sometimes even bring weird seeds from our shoes and our soil and all kinds of stuff. So we can have man-made spread. Okay.
Rain.
Yeah, rain. And or water, just maybe we could put water. And the last one, just like we we're talking about, if it's those old plant parts, like if they have infection, they can be spread. Anybody have questions about that? Okay. What do fungi lack? And they must obtain their nutrients from other sources because of that. What do they not have that they can create their own food?
Chlorophyll.
That's right. Yeah. They have to get it from other places. Organisms that obtain their nutrients from a living host are called what?
parasites. Yep.
Yep. And so what is a fungus called? They're not taking their host, usually their nutrients from a live host. What are those called? I mean, scavengers, or like, I think they're called sometimes dendrocytes because they're eating trees. But I was just wondering if anyone knew. Well, we know they're not a parasite. True or false? Slime molds and bird's nest fungi growing in mulch are saprophytes. Oh. True or false?
Is it true?
It's totally true. And so, yes, fungi are saprophytes, and that's what eats on dead things, decaying organic matter. So it's a saprophyte. Okay, you'll trust this is true right here. I don't know why it won't let me put something in. Let's see. Oh, look, nice. How does irrigation impact disease management in a landscape? How can one minimize disease favorable conditions when irrigating? So what do you think that means when we're talking about mitigating all these diseases? How do you like to water your plants?
I do all mine by hand.
Really?
Yeah, I know a lot of people have drip irrigation, but I don't have that set up.
Mm-hmm.
But to the point of that, I'd say you have to limit the amount of water when you water it and where the drainage is. If it's too wet, you're gonna have issues.
Yes, because if it's too wet in the soil, you'll have issues, but also if you get the leaves too wet at certain times of the day, it's not the best either. But then again, it does rain at night sometimes, but the point is you just don't want to do it very often, you know? Anybody have anything to add to that? What happens if we do have too wet of soil? What happens to those microbes? Well,
Well, they'll grow and then your plants can rot.
yeah, the bad microbes will grow, anaerobic ones, but the good guys like to have air. And if they don't have, you know, air down there with all that water, they will die, like you said. And the bad guys will rot everything and take over and cause all kinds of problems. You're right. And it'll start actually making the roots rot. Yep. Okay, let's look at number 8. What, let's see if I can edit this again. Name 4 categories of plant pathogens, those biotic disease causing agents. Oh my gosh, there's a baby here. I hear him.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's your baby. I literally thought it was a baby here visiting, and I thought I was missing him because my friend is bringing in her new baby in, and I thought it was Abel. So I was like ready to go see him. I haven't seen him yet. So I'm sorry, Corey. I wasn't like talking
Maybe
about.
it is that too, but I have a crying baby in the next room over. He's not wanting to nap at all, so it's not going well.
What's his name?
His name is Seth.
Seth. This one, if he comes today, will be Abel. So I haven't met him yet. So I'm excited. All right. Name 4 categories of plant pathogens, which are the biotic disease causing agents. So what are those categories? We kind of touched on it in the beginning when we talked about plant pathogens. We said fungi. So we'll start there. Fungi. What's another one?
Bacteria.
Yes. Good one. Okay. What's another one?
Viruses.
Yes. Mhm. Okay. Any others?
Nematodes.
Nematodes. And also, they suggested phytoplasmas and the parasitic plants. Anybody have any questions about that? All right, let's look at the symptom with its definition. I'm going to make this bigger. Okay. Lesion. What does lesion mean? So match the symptom with its definition.
Does it see?
Yes, it is. Yes. All right. Canker.
H.
Yep, a dead area on twigs, stems, or branches, often discolored and sunken. Good. H. What about wilt?
That'd be B.
Yes, that's right. Loss of rigidity and drooping of plant parts. That's right. Okay, what about necrosis?
G.
G, death of tissue. That's right. Doc,
F.
right. Progressive gradual weakening and death of individual branches or shoots. That's right. And you know, with dieback, even if it's a real cold spell, last year it made some of my ginkgo leaves die. But if it doesn't happen too many times, they'll come back. Actually, they'll just be a little small for a while, and they'll catch back up. Like trees usually have 2 or 3 times they can go through that. Not fruit trees, but fruit, just the regular trees with regular leaves. They can kind of go through that a couple times, but then they won't make it if they're frozen too many times. But sometimes they make it, but it may be a symptom that it got froze in a freeze snap. All right, chlorosis, what is that?
A.
That's right. Yellowing of normally green tissue. And we kind of talked about that when we were talking about pH, some reasons why that happens. It can be a variety of reasons, but that is definitely a symptom of that something is wrong. All right, D, gall. What is a gall?
D.
That's right, D. It's an abnormal localized swelling or tumor on roots, stems, or leaves. So basically the plant is reacting to being bothered in some way. Has anyone ever seen galls on your leaves? Anybody know? I had an oak gall. Sometimes galls will happen because maybe like a wasp has come and laid an egg or something like that, and they'll kind of like form around the egg because it's bothered by it. So you'll see the galls are kind of all different shapes and stuff. Sometimes you'll see them in the leaves after they've fallen off the tree. So anyways, I think it's pretty interesting. So the galls, especially on oaks are very big keystone species for a lot of different insects that use it to eat and also to lay their eggs and stuff. And so I think it's very interesting to see all the different types of galls. They're all going to be a little bit specific to whatever bothered the plant. I think that's pretty interesting. Okay, blight. What is blight?
That'd be E, the sudden death.
Of plant tissues. Yep, I think that was the last one. Yep, that's right. Anybody having questions about all those definitions? Okay. So just like Corey said, we're kind of like looking at the 20,000-foot view. What is the first major step when you're diagnosing a plant disease problem? What's the very first thing to know?
IDing the plant to kind of get a baseline of what is normal for it.
Yes, that's exactly right. Very good. Good job. And then C, a friend tells you that, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me today. A friend tells you that their pine tree is turning brown and dying. What are some of the questions you would ask your friend to help with an accurate diagnosis? So what would you ask to diagnose correctly?
I wrote down what season is it?
Good one. Well, you'll probably know what season it is, but maybe you'll say, how long has this been happening?
When and where it was planted
Good one.
or transplanted.
I would want to know what type of pine tree and how old it is
Okay.
and what direction it's sitting, uncovered, or you know, if it's open to wind,
Okay.
north, south, east, or west is what I'm talking about. Exposure to the environment, I guess, is another way of saying it.
Good one. Good one. Good questions. Really good questions. Okay, I think you guys got all of them that they suggested, except for just one. Basically, just looking to see what you're seeing on the tree. Like, do you see any signs of insects, like some insect frass? See any insect damage? Oozing sap, maybe, or holes. I was like, when people ask me questions like this, I always ask them to send me a picture, or text me a picture. And you probably already know this, but you can, if you don't want to give someone your cell phone number, you could ask them to send it to your email if your email, and so it'll email, their text will go directly to your email. So that, I don't know about you, I really hate taking my picture from my phone, put it into the email onto the computer. And you know, it's easier just to take it off your phone and just text it to someone. And you can text to an email. You may have already known that. So, but I love doing that. So people can email you or text you the picture, and seeing those pictures make a huge difference. And what I always look at personally is I've always asked them to take a picture of the disease, but I also always ask them to take a picture of the bottom of the tree close to the ground, because so many times, especially in local new subdivisions, and I mean, this is sad, but it's just how it is. They have their tree too deep, planted too deep. And when that happens, the tree is more susceptible to more diseases because the tree is basically slowly dying. Let me see if I can find one that was planted too deep that someone sent me. Yeah, here it is. All right. This is a person who had river birch. It was beautiful in her backyard. And I said, find where the tree to flare. That's where you know you don't have it planted too deep. And it was this deep. It was like 8 inches deep. And so this whole thing had girdled itself and was dying. So trees will live for a very long time. Thankfully, they're very resilient, but they won't live forever planted too deep. And sadly, lots of times landscapers just don't know. So they're not doing it on purpose. They just don't know. You notice this tree was trying to live by sending out shoots and sending out these suckers. It was trying its best. So, but trees are not like tomatoes. Tomatoes can be planted very deep and it will root from any part of their stems, but trees don't do well with that because their little bark will just rot off, and they can't get food up here because their bark right underneath there is where they get their xylem and phloem. So that's why it's really important to plant it when you see the little curve out. If your trees look like poles, if you see poles of trees, they're planted too deep. You should always see almost like a hip going into the ground. Does that make sense? I'm kind of into this, and it's kind of addictive to look at big projects and what they're dealing with, and like at schools, sadly, you just know that those trees are going to die in 5 years. But so if you can talk to your friend, if it's not too late, they can actually kind of uncover that as much as they can and maybe regrade if possible, if it's not too deep. I get off on those tangents, but pictures make a big difference. And so if anyone's ever asked you questions, always ask about where the disease is, show an overall picture of the plant, and then if you're talking about a tree, the bottom of the plant where it's going into the ground really helps, so you know what you're dealing with. Anybody have any questions, anything about diseases or any of that cool stuff? And just like I said, lots of times if a plant is not in the right place, or just like we were talking about, if its environment is a little bit rough, it's going to be more susceptible to disease. So you can do a lot to keep it healthy by planting it correctly and in the right place that it likes to live. Anybody realize that their plants might be in the wrong place and you're going to maybe move some things in the spring? I'm going to share something I didn't share it yet. I'm going to share this real quick. You might already know this, but it's called sun calc. You can actually see where your sun positioning is at your house. So for instance, this is my house over here. So right now, this is where the sun is right now. Wait, I don't know if that is. That might be an old one. I might have it not. Yeah, okay. Here's the sun right now. This is my house. And this is east. So it shows the compass ordinals. And when it's right now in this winter, the sun starts right about here. But in the summer, June 21st, it's going to be the longest day. It'll rise on this side. So basically the point is you can kind of see where your specific garden might be getting what type of sun and how long. So just want to share that. It's called suncalc.org. It's a handy website. People use it also when they're doing solar panels and stuff to know how much solar exposure they're getting. Okay, I would love to now introduce Vicki. Vicki Snar. Vicki, where are you joining us from today?
Hi. Oops.
I hear you.
Hi. I am joining you from my wee office in New Palestine. I just got back
I can't wait.
Monday evening from
Okay,
Hawaii. So I'm a little jet lagged, but I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too, Vicki. So would you mind introducing yourself? You're a master gardener, but tell us how long you've been a master gardener and what you're up to.
That sounds fine to me. My name is Vicki Snar, and I have been a master gardener. I took the class, I believe, 2010. So it's been a good many years now, and I joined the association, and it doesn't take very much to get your volunteer hours. And if you know me, my gifts might not be so much in gardening, although I love to learn. What I can do is talk to the public. And my past life, I did a lot of scientific learning because I was in the pharmaceutical industry as a salesperson. So master gardeners, we're always learning, always trying to be educated to help others grow. So I kind of moved into what I happen to be pretty good at, and that's talking to the public and learning. So I'm the education chair for the Hancock County Master Gardener Association. It's what I like to do. So what I do is I have a team. We meet a few times a year via Zoom or in person and talk about what are the hot topics, what do we want to learn about for the year. First, we're concerned about educating ourselves because we want to be knowledgeable because we're going to help others grow. I didn't really realize when I joined the Master Gardeners that that's what it was all about. I just wanted to learn more about plants. I have a science background and I've taken botany courses, but it's many moons ago. So I did not have any idea that really our purpose is to go out amongst our fellow men and women and talk to them about gardening. So now that I know that, helping others grow, we need to be educated first, and then we're opening our meetings to the public. So my team and myself choose topics throughout the year. Each monthly meeting, which occurs on the fourth Wednesday of the month, each monthly meeting of the Master Gardener Association, we have an educational program that lasts an hour. Those that need education hours, of course, attend the program and are able to use that education hour and log it. But we have, the last couple of years, we have really been interested in sustainable gardening and being ecologically aware and aware of our environment. So we came up with the idea, with Blaze's help and other people on the team, that we were going to call our program Your Homegrown Nature Preserve. So it's all about making your yard, your garden, beautiful but friendly to animals, bugs, other, native plants, and make it friendly to the other yards around and the woodlands that surround it and beyond, and learning how things we do in our yard affect the environment and will for years and years to come. So we're trying to make our garden the first step in making a better world for plants and animals. Our topics have been many and varied. We talk about pollinators like monarch butterflies and what they're going through environmentally and their declining numbers. We talk about native plants and how to encourage native plants. And we've had a lot of information about invasive plants, how to cut down on those aggressive plants that were introduced that aren't native, that take over all the sun and all the soil and the nutrients. And then we don't get our beautiful spring wildflowers or other plants that are native here. Then you have to learn, well, what animals, what insect life are dependent on these plants. Then what birds may be dependent on the caterpillars from that insect life to feed. And you realize that your favorite beautiful bird that may be out on your tree right now, you can't survive without the right kind of plants to feed the insects upon which it feeds. So it's all a big chain of life. That's what we've been all involved in this year. So our next program, just for example, we're going to call it Gardening is for the Birds. And we're going to talk about, what kind of garden you plant to have great bird life in your yard, and why that's important to everybody. Anyway, that's what we do. We also, besides our monthly meetings, we have a project called Green Thumb, and that's directly an outreach to the public. Although all our monthly meetings are open via Zoom or in person to the public at large. And we try to get that out via our websites and Facebook, and also via newspaper. But our Green Thumb programs happen a couple of times a year. And our next one, I just found out, it's a go at the Hancock County Public Library, the main branch. We have, usually it's on a Saturday morning, but we have a program. We're going to talk about soil, healthy world, and our urban soil specialist, Casey Kennett, and our lovely educator, Lace, are going to tell us all about why it's important to have good soil. That's March 19th, Saturday morning from 9:30 to noon. And we'll set up educational booths to support the topics of soil, like vermiculture, different things like that, and how to, how to have a good garden and not run your rototiller all the time. So we want to teach people that soil's living. That's one thing that we also do. I also have a pet project. I go to Springhurst, which is, I call it a health campus. but there are people that are in the skilled nursing facility or assisted living that are at Springhurst, which is there in Greenfield. And I go the second Wednesday of every month and give them a fun topic on gardening. And I've really made a lot of friends there for myself and for the Master Gardeners. So those are the type of things that the Educational Committee does. I'm sure I've forgotten something because, as usual, I'm winging it. So if there's any questions, I would be very happy to answer them.
I want to let you know, Vicki, I put in Facebook events page because I put all those events in for people. So you can register. You have to register to get the Zoom link. You get your own Zoom link because we don't want to put it out there to be, Zoom bombed. These poor Master Gardeners, they don't deserve to deal with that. So, but anyways.
That's a good point. I forgot to mention that. And I think that system works really well. It felt a little cumbersome at first, but we were all learning about Zoom. But for our education meetings every month, you get a registration link if you're interested. And it's probably linked to get a link to get another link, but that's okay. Eventually, you'll get there.
It protects our public meetings. Yes.
Yeah. So, which is great.
Anybody have any questions for Vicki?
I would welcome anyone that wants to be part of the Master Gardener Association, and we hope that you do. Once you complete your education, you are very welcome to be part of my team, because the more the merrier. So we have programs. I think we've got a couple of nature walks. We're going to have a wildflower. I think I was incorrect. Yes, I was incorrect. March is going to be a spring wildflower talk by Elaine. And then on the 2nd and the 30th of April, we're going to have some nature walks in Thornwood Nature Preserve there in Hancock County. So April is our Gardening for the Birds program. Forgive me. It's what happens when you wing it.
You did fine.
You goof up.
No, you did fine. That ephemeral walk is really fun. It's a couple hours.
It really is.
And Elaine knows so much about the plants that grow out there. And what's interesting about ephemerals, that whole concept is sometimes they're literally only in their bloom for a week or maybe even less. Very specific to where they're at in the woods. And I had no idea they were so sensitive and beautiful. They're very beautiful.
And that's why we have 2 walks, because some come out a little bit earlier. So we see the ones that'll come out April 2nd be out, and we have very knowledgeable Elaine Whitfield as a master naturalist, as well as a gold level master gardener. She's going to lead in, and her husband is the land steward there at Thornwood. So they lead us. Lace will be there and the rest of us, and it's just a really fun. It'll begin in the afternoon. I think, did we say 2 o'clock?
2 to 4, I believe.
Right,
Yep.
2 to 4.
And it's family friendly. I've brought my children before and they just kind of walked around. It was funny. Don't think you're going to get your exercise. My daughter was using her Apple Watch. She was like, it just says, "Are you done walking?" Because we kind of walk, right? What you say,
Anytime.
Yeah, we talk. So it's not like you're not going to be getting your 5K in 15 minutes or something. You're going to be, it's a stroll. It's a major stroll. But if you bring kids, they can run around and it's fun. It's fun.
It's excellent. So that's our first outdoor activity. We're also going to plan some things later in the year regarding new fields at the IMA. So our president, Darlene, is a guide there, and she is going to lead us. And so it should be a great year.
That'll be fun.
I hope you all are interested and want to become involved.
That'll be fun. And also, when you do graduate, or even now, you could become a part of the association. You don't have to pay for it while you're an intern. So you can join without paying until you become a master gardener.
Ooh, thank you for reminding me to pay. I've got to pay. It's only $20. It's not.
Yeah, for a
It's
whole
not
year,
gonna-
for a whole year.
For a
Yep,
whole year.
yep. Thank you so much, Vicky. Anybody have any
Sure,
other
thank you.
questions? I know Vicky, in our class, there's another Vicky. So we got two Vickies.
You're so
Vicky had-
blessed.
Yeah, I know. Vicky had asked if all winter creeper is invasive, even the different types, and yes, they are. Yes, I found that out, Vicky. And I also found out Japanese barberry, all the different cultivars of that is also invasive. Yep. And then I also shared sparrows. You know, the common sparrows we're talking about is an invasive species.
Oh, yeah.
I shared something about that on Facebook, and it was interesting because common sparrows, they've been here for a very, very long time. So it's probably like a less of a problem than other types of invasive species. But it talked about how house finches came in from the west, but they're native to the west part of the United States, but they kind of are trying to push out the common sparrows. So I thought that was interesting. So
Yeah.
anybody have anything to
Well-
share about that?
Well, they'll push out the bluebird, which is
I know, I
what
know.
we really want is we want to see more beautiful bluebirds that are native to around here, but the sparrows do push them out. They're thuggish. They're kind of cute, but they're thuggish.
Yeah, they
They'll
are.
take over
And
their nests.
they will. I didn't know that, Vicky.
Mhm.
I just thought they were, I didn't know that. So I try to feed black oil sunflower seeds because I don't think sparrows can eat that as easily as the birds. That's what they say, at least. So
Good deal.
Yeah. Anybody have any other questions for Vicky? I really appreciate you sharing all that, Vicky. Did anyone see my the link on Facebook so you could see the events just in case? Okay, cool. Awesome. Let me know if you have any questions or anything. All right. Well, I think the baby actually did come. So I hope your baby fell asleep, Corey, for his nap. And I'm going to get to hold a baby that I haven't held yet. So I'm excited. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.